Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are students from the University of Lausanne and are pleased to present you our findings on Sonova, the overvalued leader of an expensive industry. But before we start, I would like to introduce my teammates, Ludovic, David, Guillaume, Marc, and myself, Florian. Sonova is the global #1 in hearing aids. The close to Zurich headquartered company runs an integrated brand architecture within two segments. First, the hearing aids, including the retail operations of the company, and second, the cochlear implant. Value creation is carried out on a global scale, with Asia as being the manufacturing hub, and EMEA and the US as the predominant sales regions. As Sonova reports in Swiss francs, it is highly exposed to currency movements. The hearing aid industry is very concentrated. Only 6 players account for 95% of the market. As penetration rates in established markets are stagnating and the product offerings converge at an accelerated pace, we now observe an aggressive application of marketing strategies and manufacturers chasing retail margins. Back in January, the Swiss National Bank decided to abandon its currency ceiling of 1.2 Swiss francs per euro. This changed the business case for Swiss exporters and caused their equities to plummet, Sonova included. For this reason, we revised our analysis and come up with an even lower share price of 111 Swiss francs. And this confirms our sell recommendation. Our verdict is built up on an integrated framework to which we refer as the recommendation triangular. First, the expectation treadmill that focuses on the often cited growth vectors of the industry and Sonova's ability to meet the ever-growing expectation in it as a market leader. Second, the innovation imperative and our assessment of Sonova's self-imposed role as R&D champion in this technology-driven industry. And third, the double-edged market approach to which we assign Sonova's actions that disrupted industry patterns in the past. Saying this, I pass the word to Ludovic, who elaborates upon the expectation treadmill.
Thank you, Flo. So, expectation treadmill. Here we consider the 3 main volume growth factors of the industry and the performance figures to highlight why the market is optimistic regarding the future of the industry and the following whatever. First, let's focus on the first factor, demographics. The population is aging, and this is expected to continue in the future if we refer to these orange lines. The proportion of the 65-plus group is growing, and this is valid for every region. This fact is supportive for the industry when we know that the first-time experience for our customer is at the average of 68. However, we should keep in mind the fact that the age structures shift slowly over time, making the annual impact marginal. Now let's move on to the second growth factor, penetration rates. Over 360 million people suffer from hearing aids, and less than 10% of them have access to hearing aids. But this unfulfilled need is misleading when we know that the under-penetration concerns mainly mild cases which are reluctant to be treated. And here is the result. The penetration rates in the US are stagnating over the past decades, and emerging countries offer better rich prospects, but they remain a small contributor to the overall market, and price concessions will be required. The last factor concerns binaural fitting rate. About 70% of the hearing impaired are candidates for 2 devices, 1 in each ear. The fitting rates vary across countries, and a convergence is expected in the developed markets. But since it targets only isolated cases, the potential impact remains limited. Now, let's focus on Sonova more specifically with the performance fears. The high market expectations regarding Sonova are not justified by the group past performances, since it often underperformed its competitors. And we expect this trend to continue in the future if we refer to our forecasted EPS figures. And one last word about the share buyback program that was launched by Sonova last December. It was only half of what was expected by the investor, which might be a signal for a potential overvaluation. Saying this, I pass the word to David for the following of the argumentation.
R&D excellence is of utmost importance for the company. We will however identify major limitations to future innovation. In the industry, we observe ever shorter product cycles as well as convergence in the product offerings. Concerning Sonova more particularly, we're not fully convinced by the group's ability to internally develop promising products, and the fact that the technology behind their landmark product Lyric has been externally acquired supports our views. Despite the group's potential to lever on R&D through its multi-brand portfolio approach, we expect returns on R&D to lower in the future since marginal improvements are getting more and more costly. Since innovation is slowing down, the group is now heading towards a new market approach based on the expansion of its retail operation and an aggressive pricing. While, by looking at the value chain, we clearly see incentives for retail operation, we believe this strategy has the potential to backfire. Indeed, by growing its retail operations, the group is now directly competing against independent audiologists who are still the main sellers in the market and who have crucial importance in recommending products to the end users. Its aggressive pricing strategy, as reflected by Sonova's recent deal to sell premium products at rock-bottom prices through US retail chain Costco, has the potential to fuel price wars in the market. It is also unclear for us whether this will really bring market shares in the future, since now competitors are following this trend. We took into consideration the effect of this double-edged market approach in our forecasts. Based on our analysis, we have rather conservative views on future sales development with an expected CAGR of 4.7% over the forecast period. These results are mainly driven by a moderate view on industry sales growth, as explained by Ludovic, fierce price pressure to come in the future, as well as a stock-in-the-middle positioning in the cochlear implant business. Concerning profitability, we expect the group to achieve its mid-20s EBITDA margin target at least 1 year later than predicted. This provides basis for Guillaume to discuss valuation.
Thank you, David. So let's talk about valuation. We focus on both DCF and PE analysis in order to capture both our view on fundamental performance and market interpretation of the sector. So let's begin with DCF. Given the new input described before, a conservative perpetual growth rate, and a WACC of around 8% due to the company's cyclicality, our DCF lead to a target price of 110, which represent an expected downside of 15%. To better visualize such an effect, let's look at the implied DCF. Starting with the current share price and under the assumption of no margin improvement, we obtain implied sales CAGR of 11.2%, which appears as unachievable for the future. But is our valuation robust? We will answer this question through ethics and sensitivity analysis. So first, ethics. Given the recent event, we decided to create a corridor on the euro-Swiss franc, taking both into account transaction and translation risk. And as you can observe, even in the most optimistic scenario, we still obtain a significant downside. Now, the sensitivity analysis. It revealed that except for one extreme case, we are never above the current share price and therefore suggest robustness. Now, let's have a look at the PE analysis. Despite an already high ratio for the peers, Sonova seems to be traded at a significant premium. Furthermore, the EPS growth cannot explain such a higher ratio, since Sonova is expected to be outperformed by its peers. Therefore, the target price for this analysis amounts to 113. Finally, combining the two different valuations, we obtain a fair price of 111, which represents the overconfidence concerning Sonova's future. I will now let the word to Mark, who will talk about the main risk faced by the company.
Thank you. I will now present you the main risks that Sonova might encounter in the future. Key product-related and regulatory risk might impact the company very strongly. Besides the priority to happen on their own, many risks are interconnected and might actually trigger a domino effect. But let's now focus on foreign exchange, as it highly impacted the Swiss market lately. As seen in the latest H1 results, currency fluctuations fully captured EBITDA's growth, which puts a huge question mark on the hedge efficiency. We also perceive limits to natural hedge, as already 70% of Sonova's cost base is allocated abroad. Taking this risk into account, we trimmed down our forecasted margins as fundamentals of the company remain at risk. Taking into account our moderated views on Sonova, the market perspectives, and the high expectations on Sonova, we confirm our sell recommendation at a target share price of 111 Swiss francs. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you could hear us well.